When silence screams, narrated story, I remember that morning clearly, because it felt ordinary. And ordinary days were already rare during the war. Sunlight slipped through the wooden window frames, and dust floated lazily in the air, as if nothing bad could reach us there. I was running through the house, laughing, while my little brother Lucas pushed his wooden toy car across the floor with serious concentration. My grandmother Helena kneaded bread at the table, humming an old song about harvest and summers long gone, and my mother, Anna, sat near the window sewing, watching us with a tired smile. For a few precious hours, our house felt safe, and that illusion almost convinced me the war had forgotten us. Outside, the village was quietly alive. Children played near the church. The bell rang softly, and neighbors spoke in low voices, smiling only when they thought no one was watching. I noticed a German soldier walking down the street, his boots echoing against the stones, his rifle resting casually on his shoulder. My mother saw him too. I could tell by the way her smile faded for just a second. At lunch, Lucas dropped his bread and laughed, and we all laughed with him. When I asked when my father would come home, silence filled the room. My mother answered gently, promising he would return, though her eyes told a different story. By late afternoon, everything changed. I heard the engines before I saw the trucks. Military vehicles rolled into the village, heavy and loud, like a warning no one could ignore. Doors slammed shut, windows were locked, and voices shouted orders in German. When night finally came, the air felt thick, tight, impossible to breathe. Then the silence broke. Bang. A gunshot echoed through the village, sharp and sudden. Bang, bang. More shots followed, bouncing between the houses. Screams pierced the darkness. Doors were kicked in. Rifles fired again. Crack, crack. And I remember my heart pounding so hard I thought it would give us away. My mother shook us awake, pulling us from our beds as another shot rang out closer than before. My grandmother crossed herself, her hands trembling. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. Fear had already told us what to do. As we slipped out the back of the house, gunfire continued behind us. Bang! Someone screamed. Crack! Wood splintered somewhere nearby. Lucas buried his face in my mother's coat, and I flinched at every sound. The noise followed us as we ran, only fading when the forest finally swallowed it whole. The forest was dark and wet, and the mud clung to our shoes as if it wanted to keep us there. Every step felt too loud, every broken branch like a signal calling death toward us. A whistle echoed in the distance, then voices, then bright searchlights cutting through the trees. Lucas began to cry, soft at first, then louder. I felt panic rise, thick and burning. My mother pressed him to her chest and began to sing, barely a breath, the same song my grandmother had hummed that morning. Slowly, The crying stopped. The dogs passed close enough that I could hear them breathing. Then my grandmother fell. The sound of her body hitting the ground echoed through the forest like another gunshot. German voices followed almost instantly. She tried to stand, but her leg failed her. I remember her gripping my arm tightly, her voice calm in a way that terrified me more than fear. "Go," she whispered. "I will slow them down." Before we could stop her, she moved away, deliberately snapping branches, drawing attention to herself. Shouts followed, then gunfire, crack, crack, tearing through the night. My mother pulled us forward, and we ran, crying without sound, leaving part of ourselves behind in that forest. We hid in an abandoned barn, surrounded by hay and darkness. A soldier entered, his flashlight sweeping across the floor. Lucas's wooden toy fell from his pocket and rolled to the soldier's boots. Time stopped. He picked it up, looked around, and then someone called him outside. He dropped the toy and left. Only then did I realize I had stopped breathing. Later, chaos erupted again. Shots, orders, running. I was separated from my mother in the confusion, lost in the darkness, my heart screaming while my mouth stayed silent. Somehow, by instinct or luck, I found my way to the river. The water was freezing. A shot hit the surface. Splash, and I crossed anyway, dragging my body forward through fear. On the other side, I saw my mother collapse to her knees, holding Lucas. When she saw me, when she saw my grandmother alive beside me, she didn't scream. She just cried, quietly, like everything else we had learned to do years later. I understand now that we weren't only running from soldiers and bullets. We were running to protect the sound of laughter, the smell of fresh bread, and the songs whispered in the dark. Silence saved our lives, and in that silence, we survived.